When it comes to remasters, we never really need them, let's be honest. You can play an old game and be satisfied with it just fine, and if you played it back in the day, you could be satisfied with the memory of it. But some games do indeed age quite poorly. This is where remasters come in to rejuvenate a popular game that was once loved by its players, and as a quick way to turn a profit, since marketing a remaster of a fan favourite game is a sure way to earn some big bucks. I can't imagine many stinkers getting remastered, because who realistically is going to turn around and gamble on a remaster of Ants Extreme Racing? Anyone else want an Ants Extreme Racing remake all of a sudden? The shame of the whole remaster bonanza that's been going on this generation especially is that some remasters simply are not good enough, and so in anticipation of the rumoured, yet to be confirmed Mass Effect Trilogy Remaster, I thought I'd do a video talking about what I feel like we need from this remaster if it happens to be a thing. Before we get into talking about what a Mass Effect remaster needs to do, I feel like it's imperative that we discuss the difference between a remaster and a remake, so that we're all on the same page. A remaster functions like an overhaul. Higher textures, better graphics, basically, they modernise the game, but for the most part the game is still the same. Maybe the odd mechanic will be tampered with to make it feel more modern in gameplay, but it's still underneath all that the same game that was originally released. A remake, on the other hand, is the same story, but it's a new game built from the ground up. No proven credible rumours have stated that there will be a remake. All the rumours seem to be discussing it as a remaster, so I'll be talking about it under that understanding as well. I'm not going to sit here and talk about how they should remake the game from the ground up, because let's be honest, even if that would be cool, they're not going to do it. Unless they do, I'll be happily proven wrong here, EA. But let's finally get into talking about what a potential Mass Effect remaster needs, at least from my perspective. First of all, let's address the elephant in the room. Visuals and gameplay wise, Mass Effect 2 and 3 hold up pretty damn solidly. They're hardly pushing current hardware, but they're visually acceptable to a point where they don't necessarily need remastering, and they still play great. Mass Effect 1, on the other hand, has aged pretty poorly, especially when compared to its sequels. Mass Effect 1 looks aged, it plays aged too, and obviously if the trilogy were to get a remaster, this is the game that would require the biggest changes. Primarily it's the visuals that are in need of some love and care. Textures, lighting, particle effects, foliage, faces, dynamic visuals, even the HUD could do with a fresh look and so on. Don't get me wrong, I like Mass Effect 1's HUD, just modernise it. If Mass Effect 1 is going to be remastered, then it'll need a full-on no corners cut overhaul. On top of this, Mass Effect 1 can play a little bit awkward as well. I doubt they'll alter the mechanics for the game at all, but if they did, certain aspects to gunplay could be tweaked, for example allowing us to take cover, as opposed to having to hide manually. It would also be pretty cool if elevators did not take 6 fucking years! Reduce the time spent in elevators, please. On top of this, the vehicle mechanics when in the Mako could be improved, because honestly it just feels like a bouncy, weightless can on wheels that can do anything. However, you have no real control, so you'll constantly fall in ditches and get stuck in places. It taints the vehicular exploration that could be fixed. I shan't hold out hope for tweaks to mechanics, but it is a cool idea just the same. But can you imagine replaying Mass Effect 1 with updated visuals? To put it simply, it would be an absolute blast. For those who've played the game before, it could be a rejuvenated experience, and for those who are new to the franchise, it makes Mass Effect 1 seem more accessible to new players who didn't play the game 13 years ago and might not be interested in a title that looks as aged as this one does. What I'm trying to say is a well done remaster of Mass Effect 1 is a license to print money, and don't we just know a company that loves money? As all businesses should, might I add. I would argue that if a Mass Effect 1 remaster isn't done to a high enough standard, then there's no point in remastering the Mass Effect trilogy at all. However, if EA are going to remaster Mass Effect 1, then they'll remaster Mass Effect 2 and 3 purely because they feel like one continuous story. Your decisions carry over from 1 to 2 and then on to 3. So if they released a remastered Mass Effect 1, then there's a good chance that porting that save over would not be compatible with, say, the original Mass Effect 2 and 3, and so they'd remaster the other two purely so that you can have your decisions carry over and play out the story. So while Mass Effect 1 does need a remaster, whereas 2 and 3 don't necessarily, all 3 should be remastered at once and released within the same package, or Mass Effect shouldn't be remastered at all, because the whole point of a remaster is to enhance the experience, which you cannot do with only a third of the experience. Anyway, you can't just throw in Mass Effect 2 and 3 in a remaster and say that they're remastered because they're packaged with Mass Effect 1 remastered and function with it when it comes to porting the save over from one to the other. Like I said, these games look good, but they could still be improved visually as well. well. The same ways really, higher resolution textures, improved faces, improved lighting, shadows and reflections. Considering we're in the age of ray tracing now, it'll be interesting to see those improvements. A trend that I've noticed with games that get remastered when they don't necessarily need remastering is that they'll wind up with a massive orange light filter, and please no. Gameplay wise, Mass Effect 2 and 3 hold up just fine, they don't need any tweaking there. For these two games it will just be a little bit of a makeover, but for the most part they don't actually need that much work done. However, there are ways that the visuals in Mass Effect 2 and 3 can be improved, considering that they are 10 and 8 years old respectively. So who knows, they might even surprise us on that front. Maybe they could add denser population to hub areas, more inconsequential NPCs that just exist to exist and fill out the world, and stuff like that. Moving on, in a potential remaster, Mass Effect's DLC should come standard. Mass Effect as a trilogy altogether had excessive amounts of extra paid content, and I don't really feel like rinsing my bank account on all that all over again. A complete edition of the Trilogy Remastered would be the ultimate experience, and frankly, in Mass Effect 2 and 3 especially, the story doesn't feel complete at times without some of the expansions. And since a lot of players played through the trilogy without touching much of the DLC, a remaster that has it all standard would be the opportunity for them to do that. It'll work out as more convenient than buying every single expansion separately, and most likely it'll be cheaper as well, and if you get more game for your money, then there's a greater chance that you'll be satisfied with your experience. And so if you think about it, putting all the expansions as standard in a remaster is a good tactic. But if they do a remaster and don't do this, then it's essentially a massive middle finger to everybody. Not that I'd put that past EA. We all know their reputation. Another thing people seem pretty fussed about is the entire ending to Mass Effect 3, which by all means was a bit rough. It did get patched to feel a little bit more satisfying, however it's still by no means the most amazing thing ever. I doubt if they did a remaster of the trilogy that the ending to 3 would get changed, however I see people in the comments talking about how that sort of change would sell a remastered trilogy for them. Food for thought of course is, are BioWare and EA satisfied with the state they left the Milky Way in? The ending for 3 is still in need of some work to feel right, but I somehow doubt that it'll be any different from the extended cut ending that we got in an update to essentially damage control the understandably upset fans. The reason why is because when you consider the cost of rehiring the original cast of the games to do some extra bits, that works out pretty damn expensive. I doubt that EA lacks the funds to pull off that sort of thing, but I also doubt that EA would deem this sort of expense necessary. On top of this, I'd imagine that if Mass Effect is getting a trilogy remaster, then that remaster is being handled by a studio that specialises in remastering games, not necessarily BioWare. As much as I'd love there to be a fix for the controversy that is the ending of the Mass Effect trilogy, I won't put myself under any illusions. Realistically, is it going to change? Probably not. However, ideally, it perhaps should. Unfortunately, the reality is just because a story needs something does not mean that it will necessarily get it. But a lot of people are quite passionate when talking about the disappointment they felt from the ending of Mass Effect 3. I'd imagine the idea to alter the ending would have at least been entertained at some point in the development of a remastered trilogy, even if that wasn't for very long. Moving on, here's an issue that needs fixing in my opinion. On PC there needs to be controller support. It is true that Mass Effect is one of the only third-person games that if given the option I'd still play keyboard and mouse, but on PC the option to use a controller if you wanted to simply is not present. So that is a little adjustment a remaster could make to accommodate those who play on PC but wish to use a gamepad. This is assuming of course that the possible remaster comes to PC at all. As it should of course, but it wouldn't be the first remastered trilogy to completely neglect PC players. I'm never getting over you, am I? So that right there is another thing. It needs to come to PC. And as one final thing, I'm sure there's some cut content that could be restored to these games that might be fascinating to see. We know of some cut dialogue and stuff, so maybe it'll be interesting to see that worked into a remaster somehow. And so there you have it, there's a lot of stuff that could be done for a Mass Effect Trilogy remaster. Hopefully there's some truth to the rumours, and with any luck they'll improve the games drastically. However, I'm going to leave this video here as I feel like I've gone over everything that I need to. Of course, let me know down in the comment section what you would like to see from a Mass Effect Trilogy remaster. I'm sure there is plenty of other stuff that can be said. Rumours are placing a possible announcement in September-October time for a potential October release, and I love the Mass Effect Trilogy. The prospect of a potential remaster being announced makes me very excited, but at the same time they can't half-arse it. It has to be good, otherwise what is the point? This is a universe that I'd look for any excuse to revisit, so with any luck these rumours are real, and the Mass Effect Trilogy Remaster holds up. But until we get an official confirmation, I'm going to continue taking the rumours with a pinch of salt, and not get my hopes up too high because I know if I leave them unchecked they'll go through the roof. But thank you all for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff, that would be fantastic. And of course, with any luck I will be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point, but until next time, goodbye.